1 out of every 5 students report being bullied. 13% were made fun of, called names, or insulted. They were pushed, shoved, tripped, or spit on. 1 in 5 tweens have been cyberbullied. It's a problem, and it has to stop. Welcome to Bully This, a hero's journey. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Our passion is to show kids that there is life after bullying. You'll hear from former bullies and bullying victims, and you'll hear how they made their journey from troubled youth to successful adults. Welcome to Bully This, a hero's journey. Now your hosts, Tyler Copenhaver Heath and Clifford Starks.
Hello and welcome to Bully This, episode 8. I'm Tyler.
I'm Clifford.
Okay, Cliff, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So this is going to be our last episode of this season.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right.
It's been quite the journey so
Yeah,
far, right?
it really has been. I'm excited to hear more about what Rachel has.
Yeah.
Because wow, what
very exciting guest for the last.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So as we've been doing, I want to make awareness possible by talking about a celebrity who experienced bullying. And so I'm going to give you some hints as usual, and we'll see if you can come up with it. And I'm actually going to just kind of read a quote because I think it's really important too. There's some thought there, in what's going on. So first off, I'm going to say he compared his childhood torment to the movie Shawshank Redemption. And you remember Tim Robbins' character who was always being bullied, by the prison inmates? He felt like that's what his daily life at school was, to give you a mental image. He once literally had a bully pick him upside down and dump the change out of his pocket.
Wow.
Now, this is where your best clue is going to come from. And this is I think this is kind of profound, actually. So working on a movie, he happened to see one of his bullies on the set of his movie. And then later he said of this experience, this is his quote, "The man could have been my friend. He could have been in the trailer with us watching The Godfather. The fact he had to go through the whole day and watch me walk around, I was directing the movie, and watch me be in all my glory and to be so close to me, but so," he swears here, "mother far away, I didn't have to do anything to him."
Director of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not good with directors of movies. Crap. Steven Spielberg?
No. Rachel, do you happen to know? Do you want to take a guess?
I don't.
Okay. He's actually a famous actor, and it's Chris Rock.
So okay, that was my guess. Because
wow.
Smith, that was, but I didn't know he was a director.
So he what's interesting to me about that is, think of that, is somebody's out there bullying somebody right now. And we've talked about Eminem on this show. We've talked about Lady Gaga. We've talked about who else have we had?
Elon Musk.
Yeah. Now imagine how many people in the world want to be these people's friends now?
Isn't that interesting?
You know what I mean? These people, the kids out there that are getting bullied right now are going to be tomorrow's heroes.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just such a profound point. It's this guy could have been my friend. Here he is at the set. We could have been, "Hey, buddy, haven't seen you in a while since high school. Come in the trailer, hang out with us." It could have been an unreal experience. But he decided to bully them in high school,
Yeah, very true.
So I don't want to derail the podcast too much, but I tend to do that a little bit here and there. And so last night, I'm thinking about the intro, and we have a great guest today. And every week it's, and I'm not a good writer, and I do what I can for our guests, but I feel like I owe it to them to do the best possible job and to come up with a interesting way to introduce them, because they're well-deserved, giving up their time. They're doing amazing things. I owe it to them to do the best job I possibly can, and the kids and anybody else that's watching. And I'm just having this mental block. And I'm and Rachel's amazing. So there was so many things to go with. And I'm just I'm getting kind of frustrated, and I'm thinking about impact and the impact of the show and, things of that nature. And I'm just I'm going into this place and is this working? Are we making an impact? Are we, what are we doing kind of thing? And one thing, this is going to be a little off topic slightly, but do you know who Scott Nielsen is? Rachel, you know who Scott Nielsen is? You ever heard of Scott Nielsen?
No, sorry.
Okay. Do you know who Kim Kardashian is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We know Kim Kardashian, but we don't know Scott Nielsen. And I'm going to tell you who Scott Nielsen is because he's somebody worthy of everybody in the world knowing. Mm-hmm. This is a man, and he's built himself from nothing. And he ended up in Hollywood. And Hollywood, as he built his growth up, had built him wealth, had built him fame, had built him power. I really get his story too, because he talks about a celebrity that's crying about something not being stocked on the private plane, that he's dealing with. The guy was involved with X-Men, with, bunch of movies. I don't have to have them noted, but heavily involved, right? By everybody's testament of the world, successful.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to be a guy like this guy, power, money, everything, right? He gets frustrated about this, no green M&Ms on the plane or, whatever there was. Mm-hmm. And he happens to go to Cambodia not long after. The guy sold everything he owns, gave up his career in Hollywood, and he now runs an orphanage in Cambodia.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And we've never heard his name. That's a hero. Like, I want to swear on my podcast right now, but that is a hero, but we know Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Where are we voting our time and attention?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've stayed away from that, the entire 8 episodes so far, what Bully This is really about. Do you know what Bully This is about? Because we've talked about this. Absolutely. What did you ask? And we were going to keep away from this, but I'm feeling feisty today. I'm feeling like
last episode, the feistiness is coming out.
And I'm also feeling like, I want people to get it,
Yeah.
So we're so willing to, when some tragedy happens, everybody throws their hat in the ring. This horrible thing happens, and then everybody's on it, social media is going crazy and we're all, changing things. But where are we 7 steps behind this, right? When we could have avoided something like that.
Yeah.
What was a win? You asked me, what was a win for us in this show? Mm-hmm. And what did I say?
You said several different things, but basically you wanted that kid to feel safe on the bus.
Yeah.
That was the number one thing.
I'm just going to say we've stayed around, if one kid doesn't hurt himself because of something we've said on this show, and maybe it's delusional to think about it, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And the second bigger thing is if one kid decides not to hurt a bunch of other people, we've stayed away from that and tried to stay more in the emotional and easy. And, but the truth of the matter is racism, injustice, Hitler, this is all tied to bullying. If you don't get that this podcast is really about trying to combat problems before they're starting, because we're wanting to talk about them after they have already happened, I'm frustrated about it. That's why this show started, but and I've stayed away trying to stay the positive aspect, but people need to know that we're fixing problems at the wrong step. We're fixing problems too late. Like Jessica, when she realized she can't help mass shooters anymore at the school, and she started working with kids instead. Why are we saying it's okay for these kids to experience bullying? Because the next steps down the road, I've had high up in the police department, I've had prosecutors, I've had many people reach out to me, and they're saying that people aren't realizing bullying is a big problem with the crime.
I'll tell you this, transparency is one of the most powerful things that we have. As I've gone through my journey, I didn't know how much I cared about people. I'll give you that example. And I take the time to listen to people, whether they're yelling and screaming, whether they have a perfect strategy or a perfect system, regardless where they're at. I listen to them. And people, my dad used to say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And there's truth in that, 100% truth. And sometimes when we want something, we're going to be a little bit louder for wanting it.
Yeah.
So I respect it.
I mean, like I said, we really want to have a positive outlook and mostly help people develop motivational frameworks. But I really want people to start thinking about this collateral system stuff.
Yeah.
We need to stop solving problems 6 degrees away. We need to solve problems at the start. And the start is the kids. And that's actually, I'm delineating from my usual intro and trying to, try to develop a subtopic and everything. But I think that actually this is one of the best intros I could give our new guest. So I'm going to go into a little bit more of an intro, but that is really to build up to our guest, because where we're starting is where it's most important with our new guest. So one thing that I found really interesting when I was researching Rachel is I thought about this thought. It's like when you're a kid and you wish you could have, like I've seen some movies and stuff, and they're like, they wish they could have this imaginary friend that could do these things, you know? And that's what actually Rachel wished for. And she had bullying issues, and she wished for this special friend that would come in and do these things that would help her, right, along the way. And that never happened. That person never came. So what Rachel decided, even at a young age, was that was going to be her. She was going to be that person she wished for. And in a way, I think you and I do this too.
I had a feeling that was the answer.
I didn't invent all that riled up. I just got riled up in the car.
Respect to you that. Respect to you and that, Rachel, because we sometimes Yeah, we're gonna have a fun episode. I'll say that much.
So let me officially introduce her. Rachel Weinstock is a transformational coach and speaker for preteens and teenagers struggling with being bullied, low self-esteem, chronic stress, and anxiety. She is creator of Enough is Enough, Getting to the Heart of Bullying Prevention, and Virtual Club for Preteens, an online program that helps young people lower their anxiety by heightening their mindfulness and expressing themselves creatively. Super cool. For 17 plus years, Rachel has traveled the world teaching, speaking, and storytelling. And today she is on a mission to create a world where every child feels, this is awesome, every child feels happy, confident, and safe to the most accurate, most creative version of themselves. Rachel holds a degree in visual arts and education and was awarded the James W. Fair Leadership Award from the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education. In researching Rachel, I've realized she's the kid whisperer. So when I'm talking about where to start, this is a woman who's learned to whisper to children and be able, even the kids that aren't out of their shell. I saw a bunch of, when I was researching Rachel, I saw busted testimonials, and teacher would say over and over again, this kid in the shell never comes out. And then Rachel would talk to him, and they'd be out there. I saw one kid's dancing and stuff, and he didn't seem like the usual dancing type. He's like me. so I think it's a tremendous, and much like Carrie in episode 3 had developed this persona, so to speak, that kind of gets things done, which was KJ.
KJ.
As you recall, we have Miss Rainbow Fairy. She's the hero some kids have found when they have wished. But I guess it's best if Rachel tells it.
Nice.
So welcome, Rachel, to
Thank
the show.
you. Thanks.
Excited to have you.
There was so many ways to go with your intro, and I really try to do a good job for you guys because you guys are so deserving of it.
Thank you.
But I really, like, the more I was thinking about it, the more I was just getting frustrated, you know? And I was like, and we, as I said, we've tried to stay away from any negative topics. And, you know, we've never even mentioned big shootings or anything like that in this podcast. But whether we want to mention it or not, it is a firm part of this. And I think every major tragedy in some way, shape, or form, the people in the world right now that are causing wars, they're bullies. Why are they bullies? We'd have to go back and find out. Hitler, guarantee he was a bully. He was a quiet, weird kind of guy. He was into art and being by himself. He was bullied, you know, and then he tries to take over the world. So this is a very real problem. And we try to keep pretty upbeat. But I want people to understand this is more than, you know, kids will be kids, boys will be boys. This is bigger, what it leads to. And what is amazing about you is you get that. And you're starting to change that at the start. Right? You're not working down the road where the bad has already happened. You're at the start. And so I really want the kids to understand you. And so could you tell us a little bit about your childhood bullying experience, wishing for your hero?
Yeah, well, I'll start out by saying that, like, it's interesting that you mentioned that image of the person on the school bus, because I, to this day, still have a PTSD reaction to school buses, because I traveled on a school bus, kind of trapped in that abuse for 5 years, with the bullying that I went through in high school. So in terms of my own story, I grew up from grade 1 until the end of high school with a couple of years, I say like off, but really like, what does off bullying mean? But pretty consistently bullied by groups of people. And so I would cry myself to sleep at night, look up at the stars and wish that I vowed to the universe that I would grow up and be the person that I needed. Because I knew at the time, even as a young child at like 6, 7, I was advocating, I was saying, hey, like I'm being bullied. I'm not being treated nicely. I'm scared. And I could feel the either powerlessness that the adults felt or the fact that they didn't care. And it was those two experiences over and over and over again. So I was kind of like, why the heck don't the adults know what they're doing? Aren't they supposed to know because they're the adults? And because they don't know, I'm going to have to grow up and be that person. And I have taken that mission so seriously, like any like kind of like party with like friends, I'm like talking about like all these ideas. This is just like my entire mission in my life. And so my entire life is dedicated towards this work. And so I do it in a bunch of different ways. And it's actually interesting because some people like that work with young people, they work kind of like specialized in like one area, like they're only good with like kind of like elementary school students or whatever. So I work with preteens and teens. Some of my clients are a little bit older and some of them are a bit younger, but then I also work with the families to help like mediate in terms of creating safe spaces for their young person that they have in their family. I work with the administrations at schools. So I always feel like I'm this bridge between the adult and kid world. And kids will often say to me, like really young, sometimes like in kindergarten, like, Miss Rainbow Fairy, are you an adult? Because they're not quite sure. And so that's always such an honor. And then I'll ask them, well, what do you think? They're like, I don't know, because you like playing with us and you're like us and you don't yell at us and like, and they'll give all the reasons, which is such an honor because they actually accept me as one of their own. Sometimes they'll guess my age, which sometimes ends up being, 105, which I'm not that, or 13. And I'm like, sweetie, I couldn't be your teacher at that age. But yeah, my story is really just vowing to grow up and be the person that I needed. So I live by the saying, be who you needed. And that's going to be my book that's coming out soon. And I really just, I get it. I get it on such a deep level. I see the impact when we treat children badly, when we don't give them the tools to like, validate what they're feeling and then give them the words to say like, there were a million examples today in my class. So it's just as soon as we give those tools of validating the feelings and then honoring the boundary or speaking the truth or asking if we can repair the harm, the entire conflict that kids are like ready to like, punch each other out for de-escalates, and then they walk off holding hands usually. And that is at every level. Like it also, usually they're not holding hands in grade 8, but like there is this sense of like, I'm taking accountability and I caused you harm and I'm so sorry. And so if we teach that, not just social emotional learning at kindergarten, like, because it's, people are like, oh, this is so important, the social emotional skills at kindergarten. Yes. But grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and all the way up, high school, college, all these things, like there would be so much of an improvement in our mental health, so much of a less violent world, like every aspect that you're talking about. And I've always said this, policing, racism, homophobia, trans, every area that we are struggling in society, if we actually learn how to be humans and like also pick up where families' intergenerational trauma is being impacted by a lot of different reasons. So they're struggling at home, then they come to school, then they're the bad child, which they're never the bad child. They're the child that's struggling. So we as adults have a big snapshot and can help support them so that they are, on the right track of life. They can come here to this world and do what they're meant to be doing, and live a happy life and a kind life and a supportive life and live in harmony. And to me, if we do that in a couple of generations, our world is going to look so different.
Oh, amazingly put.
Mic drop.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Rachel, what do you say? Because you probably have to find some common ground when you first start talking to these kids, right? What do you tell them about your childhood that kind of maybe registers with them?
Well, I guess it depends on the experience because I have different roles. So, in terms of what I've learned in education, One of the biggest things I tell kids is, you're not in trouble, sweetie. I always say that. I usually say sweetie because I have thousands of kids as a substitute teacher. But I use a tone that is very calming and neutral, even if they've done something awful. And I'm also on their eye level. So that's another thing. I'm always like, I learned because I started having knee problems, get the like short chair, the child chair, and sit on it, or like, bend down, but be on their eye level. Because one of my kindergarten students, who's a JK, she was saying, I was standing up and she started talking to me, and I sat down, and she actually said, "Miss Rainbow Fairy, thank you so much for sitting." And I said, why are you saying that? And she said, because when adults stand over me, I feel scared. And I said, yeah, that's actually why I sit down, because I want you to be able to see me, because I am bigger right now. Maybe one day you'll be bigger than me, because that tells them I'm on your level. You can trust me. We're in this together. So one of the things, like, I do a bunch of things to make them feel like safe, that I'm on their side. And I've been able to like de-escalate fights that, really end up like, I'm like in the middle of like, someone's going to throw a punch, but because I have that relationship with that child, they can see me as a safe person, de-escalate themselves, and then we can talk through the problem, because I never see somebody as bad. But in terms of the coaching work that I do, coaching is amazing because it is not clinical, and I get to bring my full self to it. So if a young person that I'm coaching is going through whatever it is, so sometimes there's stuff around sibling rivalry, and like, they feel compared to their sibling and they're not good enough, and that's, hugely impacting their confidence. I will bring in things of like, oh yeah, my sister and I have a learning disability. She didn't. I always felt like I was stupid. And then they will say, wow, I didn't know anyone else felt like this. So there's a lot about just relating to them, and just listening to them, and truly caring. That's like the biggest thing I think I do, is I really, really care.
It's interesting too, as we're talking. So I introduce you with your name, Miss Rainbow Fairy, and I'll bet even that is like helpful for the kids, because
it's intentional.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you find that you use that name and then it's all you're almost like this mythical being then, right? That's sent to help.
No, it's very intentional. So I don't know if you all have seen Miss Honey and in Matilda, the movie Matilda from like a long time ago. So so you have Cliff, you've seen Matilda. Yes. Okay, so Tyler, you haven't seen it?
No, I'm still thinking about Cliff as Sweetie, by the way, from a couple minutes ago.
Both are sweeties. So Miss Honey is the character of the teacher in this movie Matilda, and Matilda is this child that has like magical powers, and that is, if I have to say, my biggest role model of being a teacher. I know she's a character, I know she's not real, but like in my heart, Miss Honey is so kind, so loving, so supportive. So she's actually somebody that I like base my teaching career off of. And one time one of my children said, like, my student said, do you know who Miss Honey is, Miss Rainbow Fairy? I was like, do I know who Miss Honey is? Yes, I do. And they're like, you remind me of that. And I was like, I just won an Academy Award in teaching. Like, I was so happy. So
that is awesome.
Yeah. So I use the name Miss Rainbow Fairy. And when I introduce myself, I will, especially to kindergarten students, I'll say like, friends, you ready for my name? And I'll have them do the rainbow and draw the rainbow in the room and do the fairy. And to this day, parents still come up to me and say, because they'll go home and say, Miss Rainbow Fairy and I played in the playground today. And Miss Rainbow Fairy taught me how to write my alphabet. And the parents, because I'm a substitute teacher, don't know. And so they'll like sometimes meet me in person, and their child will be like, bye, Miss Rainbow Fairy. And they're like, you are real? Like,
and that's why I mentioned, Scott Nielsen in the beginning, is because he's a very real hero to me. He's actually one of my heroes. I track a couple like people that I feel like we really should be looking at as heroes in the world. And I'm not talking bad about the celebrities, but I think our civilization is a direct result of who we're looking up to, right? Totally. And then let's think about video games and movies and things like that, because those are impacting kids. And one thing I love about what you're saying is you're now giving kids very relatable, you're a hero to them, right? And the right type of hero, the right type of hero that's showing them that these are what's right, these are what's wrong. And that's where, as a society, I think we all need to get on board. We teach these kids what's right or wrong through video games.
Yes.
When they're not getting it at home. We're teaching them through movies when they're not getting it at home. I was saying that Hollywood was doing a good job of showing that a bully isn't a good thing, but I don't know that that's true. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the issue that we have.
Mr. Rogers is one of my biggest heroes too. And I
He's
saw
awesome.
every human, not even a parent or educator, every human should see the documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And in that, I learned more about his journey, and he was quite spiritual. I mean, I think he was a priest, but it wasn't like an out thing. Like, he kept it kind of quiet.
Yeah.
But his concern about television and the way it was going was because he realized, like, our brains are, they're the most powerful machines. Like, we need to program them in a certain way. So all the things, and that's what I talk about in coaching too, like, what music are you listening to, like what things are you, what podcasts, like what videos, who are your friends, right? Like, what are they doing? Watch their actions. So all these things impact our lives, and there's not enough conversation around it. And to talk about the idea of our influencers, right, and leaders, to me, I've been building my TikTok platform diligently. I've done like a video a day for a year and a half now. And never thought I could even get to a year, but I did. And so when I look at people with massive platforms, my biggest thing is like, what problem are you trying to solve?
Yeah.
It's great. You look awesome. And we don't talk about this enough too, pretty privilege. We talk a lot around body stuff. We do not talk about pretty privilege. It's a known thing. Everyone knows it. It's like a subcontext, right? So if you look at who's very like large platforms, a lot of the large platforms on TikTok, because I'm on it a lot, are people that fit into that box of aesthetically pleasing people, right? Great. What are they doing? Like, what problem I'm serious. What problem are they solving? And so like now with everything that's happening in the world, like everyone, like if you are an influencer, if you have a platform, even if you don't, your platform is your family, your friends, we all need to be working on something.
Mic drop that. Seriously. I couldn't agree more. And actually you're going to rile me up because I absolutely think, because here's the thing with celebrities and, rock stars and, influencers, we're all voting as a population for them. Mm-hmm. The reason they have an extended amount of resources is because the population is voting them accordingly. You owe a debt for that. Mm-hmm. You don't get to sit in your mansion and do nothing at that point, because 100%. Tomorrow, if I'm not even going to name a celebrity because I don't want to call them out, but tomorrow, if so-and-so decides they want to change hunger in Africa, guess what? 400,000 people are going to jump on board changing that thing too, and they get to change that reaction overnight. Why aren't they doing it more? Why aren't influencers doing it more? I was talking about something yesterday about we need to all determine what our hourly value is, right? Or our minute value. And where do we pay attention? Because I want people to start thinking outside of your opportunity cost in business. I'm a businessman, and so I think about that a lot. But what is the opportunity cost in your life? When you're watching this podcast right now, if you valued your time, this is going to cost you an X number of money to listen to us. Or it's going to cost you X number. You might as well just be handing them dollars because your time is the same thing. So when you're watching some celebrity tomorrow say something, about their Ferrari or something like that, pay that man, because your time is the same thing. And I think we really need to start thinking about that. And I think people of means really need to think about how gifted they are and how they need and obligated to get back. Sorry, I told you you're getting on a topic that riles me up.
I'll say all of what we're going through, it's so psychological, and I know, Rachel, you've gone through so many deep layers through your process to see like, hey, getting down to someone's level. I would never bash any celebrity in any shape, form, or fashion. And in fact, I just want people to be aware of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all it is, a game of awareness. Mm-hmm. And when we can say like, okay, why am I doing the thing that I'm doing? And what's going to happen? And also people who are using their dollars, who are using their awareness, or who are using who they're paying attention to. Be aware of that as well. Mm-hmm. Just be as aware as, what is this creating? Like, what is this creating? Because you got super, mm-hmm. you were super aware. You went through a process of, this sucks, mm-hmm. to the point you have PTSD. Mm-hmm. And now you're taking that and you're using that as a net positive. Mm-hmm. To say, not only can I make my life better, I can make their life better. And what's super, super cool is they're calling you Miss Honey. A teacher calls you, or a kid calls you Miss Honey, and it feeds your soul.
Yeah.
You know, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you're out there, you're paying your dues. You know, society's paying attention to you. You're doing coaching, you're doing this, and you're paying your dues. I mean, I look at Bully This as a part of Cliff and I paying our dues. You know, the world's given us things. We need to be here doing something to try to make a difference for somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So, my favorite thing is collateral impact. You know, like Mr. Wonderful, if you guys ever watch Shark Tank, he talks about each one of his dollars and how he sends those out and he wants those to come back with more. But how important is the collateral impact of what you're doing in a classroom? You're going out and you're talking to this kid and you're changing him for the better, and he's going out now in the world. That's more important than a dollar, you know, doing it.
I'll tell you this, like, you know, we're starting to have Ukrainian students, and I just, you know, I've been having a hard time sleeping because, you know, there's so much like stuff with what's happening politically in the States, because I have a lot of clients in the States. So they're telling me things because they're teens, they're concerned, you know, but anyways, I have this 2 children actually now in separate classes. And I always imagine this kind of like when kids have, like most of the time it was when they have like a tough home life, and I know that, and then they have a tough school life because they're lacking nutrition, they're lacking attention, like their brains are impacted, their learning's impacted, and then they're seen as a bad child like by many educators. So then they're like really being like, they have literally no safe space because they're yelled at home, yelled at school, and their whole brain is like, I'm a bad person. So I always imagine this like, you know, angelic white wing that I kind of like wrap around them metaphorically and take them under my wing. And so I'll do like a special handshake, you know, pre-COVID, but like special handshake. I'll notice extra. So I always notice things about my kids, and they'll witness this too. Like my students like, oh, I love your new haircut, or like I look for compliments. So like putting in those like really beautiful, like human connection moments. And so those will be the kids that I put extra, I mean, even more so because I know that they're really struggling. So these 2 particular children in these 2 different classes, I've been making an extra effort. So a couple weeks ago, one of them just turned to me, and they're in kindergarten, and they said, I am so scared because my daddy is in the Ukraine and he can't leave and I can't do anything and I feel so helpless. Like, and I'm just like trying to like fight my tears back because like I don't want to like burst out crying. And, you know, we were talking about some strategies of like trying to help her sleep and try to help them sleep and, you know, drawing out their feelings and things like that. But I'm feeling totally powerless. Like I can't do anything except be a comforting support for you in this moment. So recently I went back to the class and, you know, again, like really making an intention to just add to this person's life a little bit more as they're going through this awful time. And they came up to me and said, I just want you to know every time I see you, I love you. I want you to know every time I see you, I love you too, you know, and it's like taking that extra thing. And it was the same thing when our Syrian refugee students came in and, you know, I was asking, you know, what are we doing? Because these kids are coming in, they're totally exposed to massive traumas that we can't even fathom. And so, you know, the answer was, well, we'll say like, hello, and we'll just try and like, there was no answer. So I decided to say a couple words in Arabic, learn a couple words. Then I had a whole like massive group of people, and other teachers would stop me and say like, wow, you're so amazing with them. I'm like, all I said to them was a couple words in Arabic. And then I said, you guys be my Arabic teacher so they'll feel pride in their culture and their language. And it changed the entire experience that they were having at school. Whereas before they were having massive meltdowns. So that the little things that we can do are small. They're so small, but they add up because that care and love changes everything.
Well, and that's so interesting because you're combating the bully problem by giving love to the bullies, and then therefore they're not probably feeling the same helplessness to reach out and bully somebody else just to feel something.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, you said something there about feeling completely powerless, and then you turned it into something else. And I think that's such a powerful statement, because honestly, that's where transformation occurs, is like, I'm screwed. It's just like, there's nothing I can do with this thing. Wait, aha moment. And you know, you're just a beautiful human being with a beautiful soul, and you just, that's what it is. And another cool thing, because we all have that. We all have that beauty in us. They go, all right, this is more of an internal game than an external game. That's the game that I've been looking at. And I know, Tyler, you were saying like the systems, and it's true. But in order to get the systems right, we got to start internal first. Because when we start internal, then we can go external.
Well, we have to want to change it, right? And we have to have awareness of where to start. I talk about that biological chain, and in some of the first episodes, and it's like, I think about that all the time. What is the biological chain of what you're doing when you're taking this kid and you're giving him some love that would have been a bully? That is a big chain. You don't know. And I like I said, I always refrain from saying we're the worst that could happen, but you're stopping something in that chain. I hope now that's a kid of love instead of a kid of hate. He's not growing up to try to conquer the world, and take advantage of people.
I was trying to remember because there were so many things that were in my head as you were speaking. One of the things was, so my biggest bully, who was it started in grade 8. So I left my private Hebrew school because I was being bullied so badly. And my parents went and advocated to the principal. And her response was, boys will be boys, which you mentioned, boys will be boys, kids will be kids. That's never an acceptable answer, ever.
No.
Ever. That's never an answer. And one thing I want to have known and be recognized is bullying is abuse. People that experience that, if we didn't say who it was, and I've been told horrific stories, my own story too, but I went through emotional abuse, but there wasn't the physical aspect, but there are people that have experienced both. I mean, all of it's awful. And so if we didn't say who it was at the hands of, we just told the facts. And then we said, one of this is by parents and one of this is by peers, like a child, like to a child. As soon as we say that, a lot of adults, especially if they haven't experienced this, are like, oh, okay, it's just kids being kids. But the seriousness, the powerlessness, the abuse, like all the trauma, everything equals growing up in an abusive household. And we really need to see that. And schools really need to see that they're accountable. And that their environments, that if it's not based on kindness and social emotional learning and all those things, if they're not training their teachers and supporting them, and I know there's a million things on teachers' plates, and I'm not a classroom teacher, I'm a substitute teacher by choice because I focus on this and then I do my speaking and coaching, but it has to start there. It has to, because otherwise it breeds this toxic energy. So when I was going through what I was going through with this particular person who targeted me, and he ran this abuse campaign from grade 8 all the way until the end of high school 5 years later. So it was 6 years of this nonstop. And he got people involved, all these huge, massive guys. And I'm quite tiny too. So it went on for years, and I was in the bus. So I was trapped. I couldn't leave, and I would have to listen to this all the time, every single day. So I remember thinking that I feel like I'm going crazy and I feel like I'm being pushed to my limits, and if I didn't have a supportive family, I could see how somebody could lose the plot. And I remember thinking, I could see how somebody could hurt somebody. Like I was just pushed to my max, and I didn't do that because I had this loving family and because I'm a kind person. I have all these things in place that supported me. But I remember thinking it's possible because you get so messed up because you're so targeted. And that's when the school shooting started happening right after. And I wasn't surprised. I mean, as horrific as that is, I wasn't surprised because I could see how far it could go. Right.
Yeah.
So I always say that us adults, all of us have blood on our hands, and blood on our hands means yes, worst cases, shootings, suicides, all of that. But it also impacts, people's relationships, their ability to go after their dreams, their health, their physical health is being impacted. Like the research on that hasn't been enough, but the impact on, so I just think we really need to not keep waiting and saying, well, it's in progress. Whenever someone says we're working on it means it's not actually being worked on. It's not done. So then it's not actually working.
It means we don't know and we don't care.
We don't know and we don't care. And it might mean one, we don't know, we don't care, and sweep it under the rug until we have murders on school grounds or, kids killing themselves or all these awful things. And we don't have to be like this. It can be so different.
Thanks for bolstering my point at the beginning of the episode. It's we're talking about these things way too late. Pay attention now.
Yes.
You don't have to watch Bully This. It doesn't have to be Bully This. Just pay attention now. Pay attention to kids. Pay attention if you see, you know, a kid that's being bullied or something like that. Have a discussion around it. You know, like bully. This is not going to change the bully world. You know, we hope to change maybe 1 or 2 people. You know, or help them or something. I don't know. Make some sort of impact.
I'm going for $1 billion.
Yeah,
as Tyler already knows.
It doesn't have to be bully this. Just pay attention to it. That's all we're trying to build is awareness and help with it.
This is just 2 pieces of advice in terms of like, so if you are a young person or you're a parent or an educator like that's watching this happen, or, you know, you're going through it yourself, is 1, don't stop talking. So oftentimes kids will, and this is true, like in terms of looking at people that go through this kind of stuff. So they'll try and tell somebody, they'll tell like a teacher, they'll tell a parent, and maybe the parent won't know what to do, or the teacher. You don't stop until you find someone. And sometimes that means, like one of my kids that I work with on social media, he was the only person of color in his school. It was a predominantly, like completely, like there was no diversity. It was just him. And he, from kindergarten to grade 6, was going through racism, and his parents, so like his dad is Black and his mom is white, and his dad is out of the picture. And so, and I have permission to share his story because actually he's part of my book, and they're, you know, part of, anyways, I've worked with him and I had their permission, but he became suicidal because it was so bad and they'd been advocating for so long and nothing was happening, that they finally were at a breaking point, and they were like, okay, no one's helping at the school. Well, like they asked their son, like, do we have permission to put this out on social media? And the son said yes. And they made this post to social media. And that's how I connected with this person. And I saw that post and it showed Parker's his name. Like I said, I do have permission to share. Parker on the first day of school, like happy, smiling. And then juxtaposition to that was a couple hours later when he came home, like in a fetal position, crying and like not wanting to live. So I saw that and I was like, oh, hell no, not on my watch. And I don't even know this child, don't know the family. Like I was just like, I need to find them. So I found them, and I no longer run the preteen club that you were talking about in the intro. I've closed it for now. I'm doing a bunch of other things, but I found that, and I said to him, I want you to be part of this, and we're going to change your life, and I'm going to stop this from happening. I don't care what I need to do. And literally his life changed. So they put it out on social media, like a bunch of celebrities found out about him. He had tons of shares. I found him. I coached him. We role played on like how to stand in his truth, like, you know, and then we all supported him in this community of preteens that were internationally, like we were doing an online program, and it stopped. And his life totally turned around. And his mom said, like, for years, they've been trying to get someone to help and no one would help. And so she said, like, you know, when we met you, she was kind of like, you know, with a grain of salt, like, yeah, like, we don't know you. Like, we're not sure if you'll be able to help. Like, you seem nice. And I was like, hell no. I'm like, I'm going to make this stop. And I mean, it's been totally like a transformational experience for him now. And now he helps other people.
It's, collateral impact. That is
so I hold on to those moments, right? And it's like sometimes we have to remember to hold on to those moments, focus on those moments. You know, we're going full circle. Tyler was fired up, and now he's like, oh, someone does care. Like now I'm getting fired up because it's like someone cares. That's all anyone ever needs is someone cares about me. I belong.
Yes.
I mean, the second we start only chasing in this world the money, the power, the glory, life starts to feel like the Monopoly game, right? If that's all life is about, is getting a nicer car and a nicer house. And honestly, look at celebrities. Once they get those, they're not happy. They're some of the most miserable people in this world. So especially in the United States, we teach that if you have all this money and power, you're going to be happy. And then when you get there and you get those things and it's like, where's my happy? Where did my happy go?
Conditioned to go after it,
and that's when
you
we
know
find
how to be happy.
Maslow was working on this as he died, and I might have mentioned this before. Transcendence, right? That's when we have to find higher purpose in what we're doing. Look at Elon Musk, bragged right about, sold PayPal, couple $1 million car he bought, and he's running around, you know, celebrity, you know, new billionaire in town, like any young guy would. And now what does he do? He brags about not even having a house. And what is he getting involved with? He's getting involved with space travel. He's trying to save the ecosystem. You know, he's now trying to, like him or hate him or what he's doing with Twitter. He says he's after free speech. He's found transcendence. People need to watch that. This is a guy with the wealthiest man in the world, and he doesn't care about money anymore. That's not the happiness. Changing somebody's life like you're doing or whether this kid's going to do now, that's where you can find your happiness.
Mm-hmm. And I think that comes back to, what are our values? So Krishnamurti is one of my favorite philosophers. And I read a book when I lived in Japan by him on education. And it's a really tiny book. I'm going to reread it because now, being neurodivergent myself and having a learning disability, I have a hard time processing and retaining things. But I give myself permission to highlight all my books. So, I feel like in the future, when someone finds my books, they'll know really my heart, because I like highlight everything in yellow of what I really care about. So he was talking about this idea that you have to teach children. So we innately have, there's the idea of the two wolves, that story, like fear and love. And depending on what animal which wolf you feed, that gets stronger, right? So we have all these aspects of ourselves. Like we have the rage, the sadness, the anger, the joy, the love, the compassion. We have all of that. And so if we can, first of all, like label what's happening and be able to verbalize it, or just somehow, even if you type it or write it out, I always say to the people I'm working with, if you can't say it, if it's too scary or whatever, to identify, okay, I'm feeling this, right? They've done research on the fact that if you can identify the feeling, then it helps to dissipate some of that energy, right? So you identify, and then you're able to communicate and talk about what you need. So it's this idea that like, oh, I've actually lost, hold on one second. Oh yeah, I lost my train of thought. I get so busy in my head. So it's the idea that you teach people. So Krishnamurti said, like, you need to teach a child to see the beauty in a flower. And so what that means is they'll notice it, but society is going to very quickly, I don't know if you all have this in the States, but we say crisscross applesauce, which I freaking hate. It's sit still, don't move, sit on the carpet for kindergarten kids, right? But like, what if kids are wired with more electricity in their bodies because they're meant to be like building and constructing, or what if they're meant to be like creating, I don't know, like so many things, right? There's reasons why these things are happening. So the systems that we have in place, right, pull us away from our humanity. So we lose that connection. So the more that we foster, like when I, like one of the teachers said to me today, and she's lovely, she said, I was teaching her class and the other class was like in the hallway, and they were like, "Hi, Miss Rainbow Fairy, we love you." And I was like, "Hi, friends." They're like, "Are you going to be our teacher?" So I'm like, "I'm not today. I'm sorry." And this happens like over and over and over. Right. And so then she said to me, "How come you're so popular? I want to be this popular too." And I was like, "First of all, I'm a substitute teacher. So like, I see a lot of people," but I said, "And I'm also really kind." And so that there are substitute teachers that people are afraid of and terrified of. So it's taking those moments and like, making kind cool. Like I definitely did not grow up as part of the kind or the cool group. I wanted to be like them, and I wanted to be like them, not because I admired them, but because they had power. Right. Yeah. And so, and they belonged, right? So this is this hunger to belong, this hunger to have power. But really, like now, if I go into a school, I mean, not to like toot my own horn, but I'd be one of the most popular people only because I'm nice and I care with the kids, right? Yeah. So then I make that the cool thing to do. So then they align with that. And so now we have an entire classroom, all of different backgrounds, right? From different families, different backgrounds of religion, races, everything, everybody interacting in this really kind, supportive way. And yes, we get out of line and then we support them and they come back. So to me, when I close that classroom door, that is the potential we have in humanity, is we can do this, but we need to have role models guiding us towards the best in ourselves. And it needs to be different than what it's been looking like the last little while in this world.
Truly. And you're defining it perfectly. We need to define better heroes. We need to change who our heroes are. And our heroes need to be aware that people are paying attention to them. And they need to live their lives as shining example of what the rest of the world can be. Yeah,
definitely.
One of our first episodes, I talked about Cliff and the way he acts at our gym. I mean, Cliff has been to the big show, for MMA. So at our gym, he is an absolute hero. Everybody and people that are coming in there, they're like, "Hey, that's Cliff, the UFC guy." They won't even, talk to him at first. And Cliff does a really good job of reaching his arm around somebody and saying, "Hey, let me help you with this." And you know how much that makes somebody's day when the UFC vet comes up and shows him how to throw a jab, And Cliff does an amazing job of that. Like he is literally being a hero to those guys. I don't know if you think about this that much, but like you're being a hero to these guys.
I learned it as I was going through my process, because when we talk about transparency, people need to know that we have all sorts of feelings, light feelings, dark feelings, easy feelings, hard feelings. And yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just being a person who wanted to be his best. And I always say, I'm right here, and so are you. Whether you're 2, 1, 20, 90, I don't care. You have your own journey, your own story, your own process, your own struggles, your own trials and tribulations.
Well, and what that's bred to in our little petri dish environment that is our MMA gym is it's bred fellow people like that too. Like they look at him as an example, right? And this is what the big guy's doing, so everybody else is going to follow suit. There is, can I dare say there's no bullies in our gym, really? They're like they get
weeded out pretty quickly.
Yeah. There's actually, and I've always talked about the misconceptions of MMA gyms in this podcast because there is actually really nice, incredible people there. That's caring people. People that will, when you're not there one day, they're gonna shoot you a text. Some of the closest friends I have in life are from that gym. Sure, we break each other's bones here and there, but we all signed the waiver to do that. So
it was consent.
And you can say mercy or pause.
That's really beautiful.
Would you have time to share your kind-hearted story out of curiosity?
Which kind-hearted story?
You had a story that you were sharing with the kids?
Oh, well, the one that I told today. So I read it. So I'll have to kind of, well, I guess I'll answer it this way. So the book was called, I think it was called Am I Pretty? And I just picked it up. So I didn't share this with the students at the time.
I read that one every day.
Oh, you do? Am I pretty? But it actually has a huge significance. And so, I was scavenging around the classroom, like, what book can I read? Because one of the things I do when I read is I've realized this over the years, especially reading to, any age, but especially kindergarten, I started out, is I like to imagine that the book I'm reading is like a projection of a movie, right? So I'll do the character voices, I'll add in funny things. So I had my kids so in the beginning of the book, I'll say, okay, friends, like rub your hands together really fast. And then, I'm adding in all these things of like practicing following instructions, but doing it in a fun way and getting them involved, but like making sure that they're listening and like making a collective experience. So they're all rubbing their hands. I'm like, rub really hard, really hard. On the count of 3, only on 3, I want you to throw your magic into the book. And then I'll say like 1, 2, 2.5, 2 the chocolate chip. And then they'll start like cracking up and I'm like 3. And then they all like throw it in. And then I like take it and then I like put it in the book, the first page, and then I like close it and do this whole thing. Alakazam, biff, boom, bam, make the jokes appear, Shazam. And then I open up the book and the first page is obviously blank, right? And I'm like, dear friends. And then I'll, go through this whole thing and I'll say something like, I am so happy that you are reading me today. You are so awesome. You are so nice. I hope you have a wonderful day. Love the book. And then I'll hold that and they'll be like cracking up and they'll be like, there's nothing there. And I'll be like, friends, you're in grade 1 and you're in kindergarten. You just need to look harder. I would not lie to you, and they're so on their edge of their seats, like so into this, right? So you're making it fun and engaging and just like exciting. So then this book in particular was Am I Pretty? And it was a new book that I read and I chose it because my biggest trauma and abuse, and it's one that, to this day, I still have like somewhat, there's still like bits of like, it's hard, is because my biggest abuse was around being called ugly. So I was being called ugly from grade 8 until all the way into the end of OAC. We used to have 5 years in high school. So that was like, constantly like this massive group of boys would just do this to me every single day. Right. So they planted these seeds in my head. And to me, what my brain did was, okay, I'm ugly. So if I'm ugly, I'm literally a worthless human being, which means I have nothing to offer in the world, which means I don't even have a right to live. Like that's how my brain kind of leapfrogged to it. So I have always felt, and it's been a long healing journey and it continues to be, but I have always felt like we can plant seeds of belief systems in people's brains. So it could be anything. Like I was told I had ugly hair when I was little. And so then I straightened it for forever. And now I'm like, I have badass hair. I'm leaving it. Like, so this book was about talking about that. And the message was about, you know, am I pretty? This girl asked her mother, and her mother's like, actually, what's the most beautiful is your heart. And she asked her question. She's like, were you kind to your friends? Did you include your friends? And the child was like, yes, I did. Did you walk your dog today and take care of your dog? Yes, I did. And she went through all these things. And eventually she went home and said, like, to her mom, like, you are beautiful too. So, and that's actually something I realized in part of my work of healing my own trauma was when I was studying to be a life coach, like specializing in working with kids, we had this one activity where we had this troll, and the troll represented the troll in your brain, but we were given a puppet, right? So it was like actually a troll puppet, and we were given a partner, and it was kind of this work, shadow work of you talked to like your deepest troll, which was this particular person that bullied me. And so you just told them everything you wanted to tell them. And so I got really into it. And, you know, this girl is like holding space for me. So she's holding the puppet, and I'm just going off like all the things I never said to this person that was just so abusive to me. And at one point I grabbed the troll and like pulled it off her hand. And then we were in a hotel. I opened the stairway and threw the troll down the stairs. But then I felt really bad because I'm a really nice person. I was like, I'm sorry, troll. And I like was worried about the troll's feelings.
I love that about you.
I'm like, come on, Rachel, it's a puppet.
Yeah.
So, but then when I said to the troll, when I threw the troll, was the only real ugliness is what you're saying. That's the only real ugliness in the world. And in that moment, I kind of changed my perception. And so that's the message that I want people to know, because there is so much around pretty privilege, and they, you know, like we're visual creatures. I understand it, but also nobody is a worthless human. And I feel like when people think that, for whatever kind of like trauma and abuse they're kind of going through, and they think I'm not like worthy of even being alive, like how many amazing people we've lost in the world because of that. So that really was like this story on like more of a kindergarten level with Am I Pretty?
You know,
thank you.
I have to add one quick story to that, and then I want to hear about what you're doing, because we're unfortunately, I can't believe the time's flown so quick.
No probs. Yeah.
But there was a kid, and he went to school, right? And he comes home, and this story, actually, I think about this story all the time. He comes home and he hands his mom a note, and he can't read yet. He's too young. And so he hands his mom a note, and mom looks at it. She goes, okay. And she goes, you know what? You're so smart. The school just sent me this note. You are so smart that the school can't even handle you. You know, they don't have a good enough caliber teaching staff to deal with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you at home, because you're so intelligent that, you know, you require special attention from me because you're so gifted, because they just aren't smart enough to handle you or whatever. So 20 years later, and you'll know who this man is, all of you guys, and 20, 30 years later, whatever, he finds the note, and the note says, I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of, you know, this kid is stupid. We cannot teach him. He's unteachable. You know, like he can't come to the school anymore. We're kicking him out. Do you know who that was?
Was that Elon Musk?
Story, but I forget who it is. I have heard this story.
I've heard it too.
It's Edison.
Right.
Oh.
And we are what we tell ourselves, and we are what people are telling us. Mom said, I am the most gifted, intelligent individual on earth. I guarantee Edison wouldn't have been anything if he read that note. And so it's not fair for you as some outsider to take that away from somebody. You know, so I mean, kid in our baseball episode, he had one coach that believed in him. One coach telling him he was going to be amazing, and that's all it took. Even though he had a bully, bad guy coach telling him the opposite.
It's so true.
And so I applaud you for being that coach that's doing some good in the world. And please take a moment, like tell us about your book, tell us what you're up to, you know, so we can inform the wonderful people here at Bully This.
Yeah. So right now, so preteen is no longer running. I've closed that group for I'm losing my words. I think I've talked too much today. I taught and now I'm doing this, but I've closed that at this moment. But I am coaching. So I coach preteens and teens, although some families will like come to me and say like, hey, my child's like a bit younger or a bit older. Like, are you open to working with them? And I am. It's just kind of like our marketing, niche in terms of what we're putting out. And then I obviously am doing speaking. So I just spoke at a school yesterday. I do speaking online, which has been such a beautiful thing in terms of a positive of the pandemic, that it's opened up this world of like online. And so I'm able to speak all over the world now. And then I have a coaching practice, like I said, but the current thing that we're really focusing on is my book. And so my book is about, bits and pieces of my story, my personal story of what I went through, and then also the work I've done in classrooms to create safe spaces and with coaching. And then it's also interspersed with a lot of contributors. So people that have different backgrounds, child and youth worker, my friend who is a speaker, but also worked in the prison system and does all this incredible work around hope and like support. I mean, he had inmates reading children's books so that they felt like they had hope and they could like do something once they get out, and be part of something. So lots of really interesting people as part of the book. So that's really, this has been like 6 years in the making, and I'm self-publishing. I applied to 10, different agents, got rejected by all of them, and was like, you know what, I don't care. I'm doing this. Like, I know that, this is going to be a lot of, investment in like emotions and financially, and it has been. I'm like, if this gets to be a Tesla car, then I'm going to have to stop. But it's definitely been a huge investment. But I think that it's so important because I always feel like I'm always developing new strategies and ways to kind of create safety for kids and empowerment. And I kept saying to my book team, I wish that when you open this book, it's a holographic form that pops up of me and just like translates everything I know. And that's impossible because I'm always learning new things. Yeah. But to the best of my ability, it's like, what I know to be true, what works, so that educators, parents, like caring adults just know these kind of like simple tools. Get on the level of the child. I'm sure if we interviewed a lot of adults, most adults wouldn't do that because they're just like not thinking about it necessarily, but it changes the dynamic, the power dynamic of like what's happening physically. It's a physical structure, but it changes the emotional dynamic. So there's just like little things that I've learned. And also just to add play in, like, I'll give you this one last story. So today I was outside and there was a child that was having a really hard time, but they weren't in my class. It was through the fence and they were with the other teacher, and the teacher was struggling with them. And the child was just, really upset. And I looked at their shirt and they were wearing a Paw Patrol shirt. And I was like, excuse me, I didn't know that dogs were allowed to go to our school. And he immediately, it's a pattern interrupt. He immediately was like, and then he like looked down, was like, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs at this school? I'm like, excuse me. And he like burst out laughing. All the other kids were laughing. And then the teacher's like walking away. She's like, thank you. Yeah. It's just like that little bit of connection and play. Like the language of children is play and creativity. So, and that's where we come from as humans, like Edison, playing, like creating ideas. So the fact that our education system pulls us away from that creativity and doesn't like nurture and foster it the whole way through, beyond kindergarten, beyond grade 1, like I want to see this really, like, again, our world would be so different because creativity, we're channeling something positive, something creative, something beautiful, which makes us happy, which like spreads out into how we are in the world. So yeah.
You are absolutely a beautiful person inside and out, and you are an unsung hero changing the world. I wish you were my teacher growing up.
Oh. Yes. I wish I was my own teacher. Trust me. I never had a teacher like that. Yeah. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for being here. The time flew today. Like you have some great stuff. I hope if parents at home, kids at home, I hope you're following Rachel, because I think that you can get a lot of value out of what she's talking about, and her love and kindness, and preaching of these things reminds me actually a lot of Cliff. A little bit different shell presenting the topic, but the impact nonetheless. So, Cliff, for the last episode, what do you got?
That was amazing. You are an absolute shining light, and it was a pleasure to listen to your stories, to listen to your journey, to listen to your ups and downs, and reminding people, hey, we can come out on top. And me winning actually helps you too. Like that's a true win.
Yeah.
That's the real win in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah. Thank you both for what you're doing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Glad to do it. No, thank you. So I'm going to wrap us up here. So episode 8, a little bit different wrap up. We're going to take a break for the summer bare minimum. We would love some feedback. If this is helpful to people, if there's things that Cliff and I can do to be a little bit more helpful. If you want us to come back and do more episodes, please let us know. Reach out to us if you want to be a guest. This is really something I feel that we owe, to try to help, and so with any sort of success comes obligation. And so Cliff and I have been blessed. And if this is what we're supposed to be doing to help the world, then so be it. Let us know. If we're supposed to be doing something else, please let us know that too. And then I want to take a chance to really thank everybody that's been involved with this season, from editing, from the guys here at the production studio, from my co-host Cliff, thank you for doing this. I want to thank Elliot and Kelly, producers of the show. I want to make a point to thank my cousin Michael. He's been great and supportive along the way. He's even corrected us on some grammatical errors from here and there, and I appreciate that. And bringing the family around. I hope I haven't embarrassed the family, extended family. Thank you for tuning in. Also, Mr. K2 screen name from YouTube, your comments, unbelievable, touched me, a couple different times. Cliff and I talked about it, almost to tears. So we really appreciate the feedback. We want to know, we're efficiency people. We want to know that we're, trying to do, we're on task with doing something good here, right? So I derailed the program a little bit. Know that it's in the best-hearted way possible, but I get a little bit frustrated because I want people to start thinking about systems and what the impact. This is more than just a bullying topic. It's a world topic. And if we don't start to change things at the first levels, it's too late at some point. And I guess I'm a big thinker to think that change is due, and change is something we need to work on. So thanks again. Like I said, give us any feedback. We're going to release the rest of the episode slowly but surely. You should be seeing this one weeks from now. And if you'd like us to come back, please let us know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
You've been listening to Bully This, A Hero's Journey. The effects on kids that are bullied are many. Increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower grades, and dropping out of school. It's a real problem, and that's why we created this show. We're acutely aware of the pain, shame, and damage that bullying causes, and our passion is to help kids and families to know that there is always help, that there is always a solution. We hope you've gotten some useful information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Facebook at Bully This, A Hero's Journey. Take care, and we'll see you next time.